Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Pro Wrestling Ponderings. My name is Jerome Kevin, and I'm sitting here tonight with my co-host, as always, Kevin Ford. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm hungry, but I'm also pretty happy. How about yourself?
Never got that response before. Hungry. So how are you going to cure your hunger?
Food, obviously, but not now. That's unprofessional.
What would you do for a Klondike bar, Kevin?
I don't know. I'm not really in a Klondike bar kind of mood. I'll probably just eat like Doritos or something.
Would you get arrested? Would you allegedly assault your girlfriend? Would you have HGH in your car all for a Klondike bar?
No, because I have something called common sense and responsibility.
Now, what are you implying there?
I'm implying that Mr. Kurt Angle, who had all those three things occur to him this past weekend, does not have judgment or anything else of that matter. And neither does the TNA office, and neither does Spike TV.
For those who don't know, and it's probably only 2 or 3 of you, since this is a huge story that actually made the AP wires. This is a TNA story that actually made the mainstream press, and TNA pretended it didn't even exist. This is one of the saddest and funniest things that I have ever seen associated with a wrestling organization. And when you've been a fan of this sport for 15 years, I think that says a lot. Kurt Angle was arrested on Saturday. All of the charges are, of course, alleged. Nothing has been proven. There has been no fault of guilt as of yet. But it is not a wise idea to have this man as your world champion, and I will provide an example of that. Rob Van Dam was arrested for possession of marijuana. Just days later, he lost both the WWE Heavyweight Championship and the ECW Championship. What this implies is that WWE showed good judgment by not having someone who was arrested for drugs representative as their world champion. TNA's response to Kurt Angle being arrested was to put him over in the main event of Hard Justice and have him continue to be the face of TNA and pretend it didn't exist. To further prove the incompetence of both TNA and Spike TV does not even wait for this whole Kurt Angle thing to blow over before they simply announce that they have signed a new 3-year contract to continue broadcasting Impact on Thursday nights, and there is a call for 10 one-hour specials a year for the whole contract. So, Kevin, any thoughts on this entire mess?
It's really baffling, the lack of judgment on everybody's doing that just happened. It seems like it's complete common sense that you would immediately take the belt off of Kurt Angle. And they didn't. No, they put him over in the main event of their pay-per-view, all because TNA plans ahead and they don't want to screw up their plans because they're lazy. And I think that's absolutely silly, and I think in a circumstance like this, you should say, look, we may have to take some time out to restructure everything for the next 3 months, but in the end, it's completely worth it to save our asses from the horrible press that you could potentially get from it. Do I really think people are going to care? No, because the TNA is so far off the radar and everything like that I think this story is going to blow over, just like the Chris Benoit story eventually blew over, and that was far, far more steep than this was. So I really don't think in the end it's going to make a big difference. But it's still just a poor lack of judgment on everybody's part, and I think that they could have handled the situation a trillion times better than they ended up doing.
I don't think that there's really any way to possibly excuse TNA for this behavior. And while there is a whole lot of incompetence associated with these decisions, it actually gets worse because you look at Kurt Angle and you just see a potential wrestling tragedy waiting to happen on any given day. It is almost a fear of mine that one day I'm going to wake up and Kurt Angle is going to be dead because of the damage that has been done to his body. He is clearly not of a right mind to be anybody's world champion. The fact that the WWE fired one of the best wrestlers in the world, I think it says a lot. I think if Kurt Angle was both a talented wrestler and was of right mind, WWE would have never let this guy go. They would have given him whatever he wanted to stay. But the fact of the matter is that Kurt Angle, he's just a wrestling tragedy waiting to happen. And something that Kevin pointed out a few weeks ago was in the DVD. And what exactly was that?
He mentioned he was at the top of a hill talking about, he was in the city of Pittsburgh where his dad had built buildings, and he said, pretty much to the day where my dad died, he had spent his days working on this thing, and he goes, and, I knew what he meant, but it's sort of scary. He said, that's what I want to do. I want to die doing the job I'm doing today. And it's literally sent chills down my spine, because that's exactly what WWE was afraid of. They were afraid he was just going to get up and die in the ring. And I think one of the biggest things about what you said is about, you see how careless and how big of a lack of judgment he has for what he does when it comes to the law. Think about how careless and how big of a lack of judgment he's going to have when he's wrestling and he's putting his body at risk. He can't really afford to do that, and I think he's a big liability for whatever company he's in.
Certainly, he is just 40 years old. In wrestling years, he is an old man, but in reality, he could only be potentially halfway done with his life. He could live another 40 years if he was in proper health. And you have to hope that somebody is smart enough to understand that this man needs help and that he is a wrestling tragedy waiting to happen. There's just no way around getting it. And, we like to have a lot of fun and, make fun of TNA at whatever cost, and we like to rip on them for the stupidity. But in all seriousness, there is a man's life on the line every day that Kurt Angle continues to be employed by TNA. And if they are not only going to trust him to be their world champion, but to also run their company, then they are just asking for a PR disaster, not only for themselves, but for the wrestling business as well. This is a black eye in the sport, and I really don't want to see it come to this.
No, of course not. You never want to see something like that happen. And I think, it's just the tendencies of the wrestling business. Somebody is going to hire him. If TNA fires him, WWE may take him back. If WWE fires him, then he'll just go to the independents. I'm sure some independent company would salivate the thought of getting Kurt Angle on their show to rake in just a few extra ticket sales or what have you. It's the cycle of the wrestling business. It's a skeezy, dirty business. And as much as we love it, we can't deny that sometimes there's good people in the business, but man, sometimes it's really hard to like the business as it is, and this is one of the moments.
And now we can actually move on to some better news. CHIKARA had their Young Lions Cup weekend. It was 3 days of exciting action. And since Kevin is the CHIKARA rider, I think it's only fair that he kind of goes over some of the important happenings of this weekend. There's 3 nights of action, so we're not really going to go over everything. But Kevin, just kind of give me the Reader's Digest version, what people need to know about this weekend.
Okay, well, I guess the easiest way to do this is kind of go night by night and give the highlights of each night. So night one, the first thing of note is in the very first quarterfinal match, we had what I consider to be the biggest upset of the entire tournament when the debuting Brendan Michael Thomas defeated Frightmare, the guy I thought was going to go all the way and win the damn thing. So shows how much I know and how much credibility I have as a CHIKARA rider. That'll damage my reputation for sure. But Frightmare is a guy who has been unbelievably impressive since he's debuted. Everybody likes him and thinks he has loads and loads of potential, including the CHIKARA office and everything like that. So it might be in the best interest of him not to win this and to kind of win it in a feud or something like that. But I completely think that Frightmare is bound to be Young Lions Cup champion someday. So that's that. Also, that should be mentioned is that Creator Wrestler debuted his new gimmick of Dasher Hatfield this weekend, which is kind of an old-timey baseball player. His mask looks like a baseball with an awesome mustache on it. And just this weekend alone, Creator Wrestler has looked, these are reports. I didn't see these shows. But the reports are that he has looked his absolute best he has ever in his career. Creator Wrestler, it's kind of hilarious to look back at his track record and see just how many matches he's lost. Like, it's almost Jigsaw and Ring of Honor hilarious. But he won his match with Jason Hades. He got to the finals of the semifinal match of night 2, meaning he was one of the last 2 people with Colin Delaney. And Colin Delaney defeated him and won the night 1 bracket of the Young Lions Cup, so he made it to the finals as well. And so those, I guess, are the most important things. Oh, and Fire Ant and Soldier Ant defeated 2.0 and picked up their 3rd point and now are in line to get a title match against the Osirian Portal. On night 2, we had, first we had Brett Russell Race. It did indeed turn out to be Lester Crabtree, pretending to be some young cool dude, but he's replaced by Vocador. And who is that, you may ask? And I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that name. But if you've been paying attention online, there was a masked man in a trench coat and hat in the CHIKARA audience for the past couple shows, and people were wondering who this guy was. A lot of speculation stated that he might be looking for Ultramanus Black in the Eye of Tyr, but he debuted as a wrestler in this match and defeated Yellow Dog in just a little under 4 minutes and made it to the semifinals as well. And other than that, Player Dose came out on top in the semifinals matches that night. And Vocador, I think, actually eliminated some people in this match as well, kind of looking strong. So that's that. But then, so the finals for the third night were Colin Delaney versus Player Dose. On the third night, 2 more teams qualified for a shot of the Osirian Portal. First, we had the Roughnecks of Brody Lee and Grizzly Redwood defeating the North Star Express. Before that, they defeated Los Ice Creams and Cheech Hernandez and Casey Cloudy Day. Then we also had the team of Fist of Icarus and Gran Akuma, who scored one of their points by defeating the Neo Solar Temple in this match. And before that, they had defeated, Jigsaw and Mike Quackenbush. And before that, I can't remember because it was actually quite a while ago they did. I think it was like late 2008 they gained their point. But so those 3 teams have points towards the Osirian Portal. We'll see what happens. Tim Nonce destroyed Hydra on night 3 after losing a 6-man tag with him. So it looks like he might be turning Rudo for good. Who knows? At the end of the tag elimination match, after the Order of the Neo Solar Temple got pinned, man in all white came out and threw something to Manus, and he very scaredly threw it into the crowd. There was a note that said, the war is coming, or something like that. And with the announcement of Cybernetico coming up, it looks like it could do something with that, but who knows. Chuck Taylor also came in with green hair in the Golden Dreams Trios match, and the story with that is that if you've been paying attention to the blogs on ChikaraPro.com, he stole Green Ant's attire after Anniversario, brought it with him to Japan so one of the young boys could wear it for the shows because he's a mark. And he did this because Chuck Taylor lost a hair versus hair match against the Colony. And so, A, he was playing a prank on the Colony, and B, he traded the outfit to get hair tonic to quickly regrow his hair, and it turns out this tonic turned his hair green. So a little bit of comedy there, but I think Chuck Taylor's a trooper for not only shaving his head but dyeing his hair for this angle, so good for him. The third series of matches between Claudio and Eddie Kingston ended in a count-out, so this feud is definitely far from over, I would say. And, of course, the biggest news coming out of the weekend is that Player Dose is your brand new Young Lions Cup champion, defeating Colin Delaney with a Super Plancha in the finals. And I believe that is the digestible version of the Young Lions Cup weekend, even though there was still a lot of information.
And now we have 3 tag teams after having 0 before this weekend. We now have 3 potential teams with 3 points that can challenge the Osirian Portal. So I would expect that the Portal's going to be having some title defenses coming up in New England and possibly in October. So, Kevin, I just want your thoughts kind of on what this all means, having 3 teams with 3 points.
Well, the Osirian Portal have been champions since, I think, October 19th of 2008. And since then, they've only had 3 defenses of the titles. And one of those was when a Scorpion Egipcio had to replace Amasis in the tag match. So really, there's only been 2 title defenses of Ophidian and Amasis, and that was against the Colony in January and Mike Quackenbush and Jigsaw in April. So they haven't really done a ton. So I think 3 challenges in the fall. Since Ophidian was injured, he couldn't do that. So kind of bad luck there with Amasis getting injured at the beginning of the title reign and Ophidian getting injured lately, so obviously no title reigns. But I think having 3 challengers coming up in the fall will add a lot more legitimacy and credibility to their title reign. So I think it's good. I find it interesting that 2 of these teams are Rudos, and that the Osirian Portal are Rudos, but I guess it goes to show you that it really doesn't matter what side of the line you stand on. Those tag titles are important, which I think is great. And I think the Osirian Portal and Colony had a hell of a match. I gave that match 4.5 stars. I think it'd be great to do that again. I think they could make some magic once more. Akuma and Icarus are awesome, and they have loads and loads of momentum behind them. So I think having a match with the Osirian Portal will be excellent. And, of course, the Roughnecks are the Roughnecks, and, it's Grizzly Ritter and Brody Lee, so I don't know what kind of match they have. But I think having 3 challengers for the fall would be very interesting, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Colony or Fist took the belts off them, but we'll see. I do like your idea of Quack and Jigsaw gaining their points in the fall and then winning them at the season finale, so we'll see.
Chikara has one of the strongest tag teams divisions, if not in independent wrestling, in all of professional wrestling, and you've got a number of tag teams that they're teasing breaking up. And considering that they really don't have a singles championship per se, obviously they have the Young Lions Cup, but that's for a certain level of performer. I just think that they really need to have as many tag teams as possible ready to challenge for the belt at a given notice. And I think it's great that they have 3 challengers ready for the fall. They kind of took the summer off, although they obviously had the Young Lions Cup, but really didn't run a lot of shows in June, and they didn't run a show. They kind of ran a B show in July. So I think it's great to really kind of kick off the fall in a big way, just to get these tag teams ready for opportunities at the belts.
Yeah, and you made a good point with teams splitting up. I do want to say that I think it was a smart choice and a good choice to give Player Dose the title. I really hope they don't break up the Super Smash Brothers in the long run. I mean, that's fine that for at least a while Dose will be doing his own thing, defending the belt and everything. That makes sense. That's what should be done, because you need to keep that title strong and important. But I really like the Super Smash Bros. And think both of them benefit in CHIKARA much better as a team than as individual wrestlers. And not that they're bad as singles guys, because I think they're great as that. But I'm far more interested in seeing the Super Smash Bros. Team in CHIKARA than I am in singles forever, at least.
And the other thing is that it's a good idea to put Player Dose over, because you got guys like Jigsaw and Hallowicked and Gran Akuma. They're going to Dragon Gate USA. They're kind of branching out from CHIKARA into other companies. And not to say that any of these 3 folks are going to be leaving CHIKARA anytime soon, but as CHIKARA continues to grow and as the potential for more shows arise in 2010, 2011, maybe they'll go out, come back to the Midwest. I think it's great to start building some new stars, some new faces to really get over, and I think that CHIKARA is one of the companies that's done the best job this year of just putting over new talent and really trying to get new people over.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely the best at that, and nobody does it better than CHIKARA. Obviously, I'm extremely biased, but there's a reason that I used to write about Ring of Honor, and now I write about CHIKARA.
Well, I can be a little more fair since I still watch Ring of Honor. I'm a huge PWG fan, still watch WWE, still watch CHIKARA, and I can tell you that they really do the best job of pushing the new talent. And CHIKARA has been my favorite company of 2009 so far, and that says a lot because, PWG's had a great year, but as far as storylines go, in combination with the matches, I think CHIKARA has really done the best job. And, it's funny, I was looking at the website today, and the saddest thing to me was that they are only having 6 shows for the remainder of this year, and that actually kind of saddens me because I want to see as much as I can from this company, and they're going to leave me wanting more. I guess that's a positive thing, but it's kind of amazing to think that they only have 6 shows after Young Lions Cup, and that the season's going to be coming to an end soon.
But you know what? I think, as you said, it's a huge positive to leave you with wanting more, and I think in everyone says, in these economic times, blah, 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 but it's true. In these times, CHIKARA's come out and said that they were going to be running much less shows than they did in 2008, specifically for, financial reasons. And they weren't even going to branch out of Pennsylvania. So, going to New England and doing all that, I think was a positive for them. And having 6 shows, they're still doing the Cybernetico, and that's great and everything like that. And I think that's perfect. So I think having just 6 shows for the rest of the year, I think not only makes it easier for the company to kind of have a lift of a financial burden, but also makes it easier as a fan to follow because, geez Louise, Ring of Honor puts out somewhere around 30 DVDs a year or something, and that's just so expensive, and it's really kind of tiresome to keep up with them. But CHIKARA, putting out about 20 or so, I think is much, much easier to follow, and probably even less than that. I'm not sure the exact number, but so I think it's a lot easier for the fans to digest and follow them, and I think it's a lot easier for the company to keep going and keep a lot of momentum. And you saw they didn't do shows in the U.S. for over 2 months, but they still had a way to keep interest and trickle out information about their shows, to keep people interested in what they were doing for both Never Kneel at the Altar of Conformity and the Young Lions Cup. So I even think with them taking the hiatus and not having as many shows, they really milked what they could, and they made the best of the bad situation.
And having their association with Dragon Gate USA certainly helped them a lot, too, in that area.
Oh, yes, indeed. And I really hope the Cybernetico, if it has nothing to do with Ultramanus Black, that has everything to do with Dragon Gate USA versus CHIKARA, because that would be amazing.
Fuck. Well, folks, we have to talk about Ring of Honor. And for the ROH on HDNet results, Kevin, why don't you do these as well?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be happening.
Why not? Why not, please?
No, I mean, I've already read, I've talked for a while about CHIKARA. That's really my forte, and I think I've made a much larger contribution to this podcast than needed. So I really don't think I'm going to be reading these HDNet results. I think that's your job.
You better have some big news at the end of this podcast to justify your behavior.
Well, we'll see now, won't we?
Hate you with the passion of 1,000 men.
Whoa, that sounded interesting.
Yeah, you think about that one.
The passion of 1,000 men. Somebody isolate that, please.
Anyone does it, I will eject them from this world.
Wow. Now we have death threats going on the podcast.
I never said death. I said ejected.
Right. Anyways, why don't you talk about Ring of Honor and HDNet, since that's your job.
All right, folks, let's give the Reader's Digest version of everything important that happened in Ring of Honor. Okay, I know what I just said. Important Ring of Honor, kind of, not really making sense there, but just go along with this, okay? Brent Albright and Claudio Castagnoli opened the entire taping with their steel cage main event, folks. That is when you walk into the arena in Philadelphia, you saw a cage. Brent Albright and Claudio had a main event to open the show, and then they did pre-show matches. Of course, one of these pre-show matches involved Johnny Yuma, or as I like to call him, Kevin Ford's favoriteest wrestler in the whole world.
I don't know why. I've never seen Johnny Yuma wrestle ever.
Trust me, it's true. It's damn true. We had Jerry Lynn and Tyler Black win against Kenny King and Rhett Titus. We had my personal dream match, Sanjay Dutt over Alex Sugarfoot Payne. The Young Bucks of Matt Nick Jackson defeating the Dark City Fight Club. The Briscoes and Kevin Steen and El Generico went to a double disqualification. The Necro Butcher and Jimmy Rave in a conspiracy theory special. Necro won by a disqualification in the main event, which was said to be really, really good. Kenta and the Hybrid Dolphins of Bryan Danielson and Roderick Strong beat Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards, the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and Chris Hero. Now, you might be wondering about the Ring of Honor World title. I'll get to that in a second. But for now, let's go over Night 2, as apparently Sanjay Dutt and Delirious are going to be starting a feud, and I cannot even hide my excitement for the worst feud of 2009, potentially at hand.
No, I have to stop you there. You cannot tell me that Delirious and Sanjay Dutt is going to be worse than either Brent Albright and Claudio Castagnoli or Hornswoggle and Chavo Guerrero. You cannot honestly tell me that.
Okay, it will not be worse than Chavo Guerrero and Hornswoggle. I will concede that point to you.
Are you really just telling me that you think Claudio and Albright will overshadow Delirious and Sanjay Dutt by leaps and bounds? They're way better wrestlers than Brent Albright and heel ROH Claudio Castagnoli.
We will see. I have to evaluate the cage match before I...
No, you just don't like Sanjay Dutt. That's why you're saying this. You're biased.
Maybe so, but the fact that I don't like Sanjay and I'm not interested in Delirious, that's a very bad combination for a feud in my view.
All right, well, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it's not going to be worse than either of those feuds. I guarantee it.
We'll see. The Tag Team Honor Rumble, the Briscoes defeated a bunch of other tag teams to win a future opportunity at the Ring of Honor World Championship. The Necro Butcher and Bison Smith fought to a double countout in another conspiracy theory special as brought to you by us here at Pro Wrestling Ponderings. Kenta defeated Chris Hero, meaning that Kevin and I were both wrong. And to show the real value of the Ring of Honor World Championship, Austin Aries defeated on Night 1 Grizzly Redwood, and on Night 2 Alex Sugarfoot Payne. Thankfully, there was some rectification of this, as Austin Aries on Night 2 defeated American Dragon Bryan Danielson in the main event of the second night of tapings. There were also some matches to come out of this, but since Kevin will reap the rewards of two of them, I will have him go over those.
All right. Well, yeah, I can't tell you how annoyed I am that the Ring of Honor title was treated like crap with Grizzly Redwood and Alex Payne title defenses. Two guys who got pulled out of a hat and have no reason to be in that title match whatsoever, especially when you consider that Kenny Omega holds 2 pinfall victories over Austin Aries as champion, and Roderick Strong holds a pinfall victory over Austin Aries as well. I guess the two benefits that I get, you also get one of these two that you didn't mention. Well, first of all, Jerry Lynn got injured, and his future Ring of Honor is questionable, which I'm not the largest Jerry Lynn fan. I don't want to see him be hurt, but if he's not on the New York City show that I'm attending, that's all well and good. Also, we had talked about earlier that the Briscoes and Kevin Steen and El Generico went to a draw because the American Wolves ran in and attacked. Well, because of that, Steen and Generico, who won a match in Chicago Ridge in late June that stipulated if they won, they would get a title shot in the future with a stipulation of their choice. They have announced in New York City on September 26th at the Manhattan Center they will face the American Wolves for the tag titles in the second ever Ring of Honor Ladder War, which I'm very, very excited about. As we talked about our conspiracy theory with Necro and Jimmy Rave, well, they will be having a dog collar match in Chicago Ridge, Illinois on September 19th as well. And then also announced for New York City was two guys who have been having problems on HDNet, and that is Chris Hero and Eddie Kingston will continue their feud that's been going on since 2004, people. 2004, believe that, in Ring of Honor, and the Manhattan Center show on September the 26th as well. And I believe that's all the news. I may have been leaving out something, but is that pretty much everything we have to talk about for Ring of Honor?
I guess that is. The Necro Butcher and Jimmy Rave will continue to have another one of the most boring feuds of 2009 in independent wrestling. Boy, it seems like Ring of Honor's just had a bunch of these this year. I think it's really unfortunate to see where the Necro Butcher has how far he has fallen. I have to admit that I am personally not a huge fan of the Necro Butcher, but if you told me, if I was a wrestling promoter, that the Necro Butcher would add 100 people to my attendance and it would sell an extra 200 DVDs, I would accept him for what he is. I would book him in a no disqualification match, and if I were to continue to bring him into the company on a consistent basis, that is exactly what I would do. I would have him do crazy brawls. I would make him a special attraction. I would put him in with my best workers to try to get the best out of him. To have him continue to come into Ring of Honor and wrestle disqualification matches, count-out matches, is just completely ridiculous. And although I'm not a fan of fans throwing garbage in the ring, if the Necro Butcher is going to continue to wrestle this trash, then Ring of Honor is kind of reaping what it's sowing in that respect. To me, if I were a smart man, and I'd like to think that I am sometimes, I would have Necro turn this whole Necro thing into an angle and say, the Necro Butcher, Jimmy Rave, if Necro does not win, he is out of Ring of Honor forever, but if he wins, then every match he participates in is just under his own rules, and just have it be that way. I think you make their match in Chicago infinitely more interesting if you were to do something like that, and I think you would actually get the fans to care and be invested in Necro Butcher winning the match instead of just having this dumb feud continue.
Okay, there you go. You also cannot tell me that Delirious and Sanjay Dutt will be worse than Necro Butcher and Jimmy Rave's feud.
You don't respond to my good point. You just have to rub it in.
Right, exactly. I really do. That's all that happens.
Could you at least give some thoughts on, my proposed idea for the Necro Butcher and respond to that?
It's good. It'd be better if Ring of Honor I thought was going to stick around longer for that stipulation to matter, but I guess that's not anything we can control.
Nope, I guess not.
Yeah, well, that's Ring of Honor, folks.
That is indeed Ring of Honor, and we will be having more on Ring of Honor, of course. They will be doing more HDNet tapings next month. September is going to be a big month for the Pro Wrestling Ponderings and Ring of Honor, as I will be attending the Chicago show. Kevin will be attending in New York. So a lot of Ring of Honor stuff coming up, so be looking out for that. All right, now we can move away from more bad news in Ring of Honor and move on to some good news, as the Fray has been announced, or the entire field for Fray in Chicago at the Congress Theater, September 6th, Dragon Gate, USA. Kevin, why don't you read who is going to be in the Fray? Oh, wait, I'm going to the show, so I'm going to do it, since you are too good to read the Ring of Honor results.
Ah, you dick.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so let's go over the field for Frey, as it will be the Great Malaki. Hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Shima Zion, fresh off a tour of AAA in Mexico. Mustafa Ali, a top indie star in the Midwest. Lewis London and Johnny Gargano, who are both in the July fray. Hallowicked, one of the top stars from CHIKARA. And the two new additions, the Flip Kendrick, as I like to call him. He has recovered from his broken jaw, and we will have both the Flip Kendrick and the Bryan Kendrick on the same show. One can only hope that they will form a tag team and just be called The Kendricks, or have a sitcom. And the final edition, one of the rare times that Gabe has booked Eric Cannon, I believe the last time was Do or Die 4. Eric Cannon is indeed going to be in the fray, and this is a great opportunity for him to impress. Obviously looking forward to the show a great deal. For now, this match, I think there's a great talent base here. So a lot to look forward there. And, of course, a non-title matchup has been signed. It will be Ryo Saito and Genki Horiguchi. They are the Open the Twin Gate champions, and they will be wrestling the Young Bucks. I can only speculate that the Young Bucks are going to win this match and set up a future title defense or possibly a tag team tournament of some sort for the Dragon Gate USA. I can only imagine that they're going to do something like that for the future, but hopefully the Young Bucks can get themselves over one more time in the Midwest. Kevin, what are your thoughts on all the announcements I just made and the continuing greatness of Dragon Gate USA in Chicago?
I'm more interested in the Kendricks sitcom more than anything else you just mentioned, so thank you for that.
Vince Russo can write it too.
No, he can't, because he can't really write anything.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. I called Vince Russo out. Yes, of course. The fray looks great. I think Eric Cannon and the Flip Kendrick being the last two competitors are great, and of course Hallowicked is amazing, and I hope he or Cannon win. Though the fray has a very serious lack of Marche Rocket, don't you think?
I could not possibly agree with you more on this. We are going to start a campaign to get him something on Dragon Gate USA just because I think he fits in perfectly with what they are all about. So, hopefully.
I also agree with that. He should be in there instead of, I don't know, pretty much anybody but Eric Cannon and Hallowicked. I'd be fine with him replacing. And not that I dislike any of the guys. I just really like Marche Rocket. And I think the tag match was very obvious, but also the right thing to do. And I think the Young Bucks will go over, and I think they will get a tag title shot on a future Dragon Gate USA show as well. And I think the whole show, top to bottom, looks incredible, and just another star-studded, work rate-driven card potential we have here. And I'm very jealous of you and anyone else who gets to go to this show. And hopefully I will venture out to one of these DGUSA shows one of these days.
Whoa. I was just checking the bios page, and what the hell's going on? Kevin, I've had enough of this. It's time for the cat to be let out of the bag here. What the hell is going on?
Well, I think first we should mention that, my tease is about the family of Pro Wrestling Ponderings growing, but there's two guys that you know about, obviously, and that is Mr. Jason Sterlacki, former Cool Kids Table member, who is coming back with the Idiot of the Week column, which is brand new, which is a pretty obvious title there, but he'll talk about who he thinks is the biggest idiot in the wrestling world. And then also
TNA.
Right, of course, TNA, and you know a lot more about the other writers, so why don't you give him away as well?
Yes, Drew Cordero is not necessarily going to be writing for Pro Wrestling Ponderings, but Beyond Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Ponderings are going to have a partnership together. You will see the Beyond Wrestling banner on the ProWrestlingPonderings.com homepage. So ProWrestlingPonderings.com not only has a good partnership with AEW blooming, but one with Beyond Wrestling as well. This is something that I am very, very excited about, just to get the opportunity to work with wrestling companies on a smaller scale. You know, we don't have to be hostile towards each other, the wrestling media and organizations like this. So I think that this is going to be a benefit for both sides. And I apologize, Kevin. I just saw the bio of someone, and I had to immediately ask. I almost forgot to plug these guys, but Kevin, you need to tell me right now what the fuck is going on my goddamn website.
All right. I think enough's enough. I think I need to tell the world what's going on here. Well, as you and I know, the Cool Kids Table came to, I don't want to say an abrupt end, but a very surprising early ending. We knew it was going to end in February, and it ended up ending in early January. And for people who don't know, the three big head honchos over there are Mr. Let's see, there's Brad Garoon, there's Jake Ziegler, and there's Sam Berman. Out of those three, I think Brad was one of, probably had the most in doing the website, and I always seemed like a very happy, upbeat kind of guy with the podcast, and just a very funny Jew overall. So I still like talking to him and everything, and I've talked to Jake and Sam and all those guys, and Sam I knew took a hiatus from writing just because he was kind of getting burnt out, and he hasn't been writing since. Jake's been writing over for Pulse Wrestling and doing his own blog thing, and I've kept in touch with him. But Brad seemed to kind of just fall off the face of the earth. And, I really appreciated Brad's work and his writing and everything, and if it wasn't for him, I would never be a writer. In fact, I still kind of, call him boss to this day. So I decided I was going to go out of my way to go to New York City, where he has located himself, to find him. And wouldn't you know, I found him wallowing in sorrow in a bar there, and there's a couple things we don't know about Mr. Garoon, and that's that apparently he has a bad past, and I'll tell you why. What we didn't know is that while he was working at the Cool Kids table, he also worked for General Motors, and we all know General Motors no longer is in business. So he went to New York City for schooling and everything else, but he also needed to take up a job to make a little extra money while he moved in. So he decided to work at the Virgin Megastore in New York City. Everyone knows about it. Big record place. You can't miss it. If you watch any MTV shows, it's right there. Well, the Virgin Megastore went out of business as well. So Brad needed to get another job. But wouldn't you know it, he decided to get a job at the New York City branch of Krispy Kreme Donuts. And then Krispy Kreme announced they were closing a ton of their branches, and one of those happened to be where Brad is. So between General Motors, the Cool Kids table, Virgin Megastore, and Krispy Kreme, Brad really just had a track record of failure, and he couldn't take it anymore, and he wondered why. Why, God? Why was Brad Garoon having so many failures? So I saw him wallowing in self-pity, and I just couldn't have my friend, my boss, and the guy who got me into this wonderful internet wrestling world just sitting there in sorrow. So I came, and I put my arm around him, and I looked at his eyes, and I said, Brad, it doesn't have to be like this. And the internet wrestling community needs you. We need your contributions, Brad. We need you back. And he questioned it at first, and he didn't want to be a failure again, but I said, I promise you won't be. You won't be running things, but you'll be back as a writer, and you can do what you loved before, and you can have all the weight off your shoulders once again, and you can come back and do what you love. So yes, Brad Garoon is now working for ProWrestlingPonderings.com, and he will be talking and reviewing about Dragon Gate and Dragon Gate USA.
Holy shit, Kevin Ford, you actually did your job for once.
Yes. I do what I can for my friends, and Brad's someone who I consider a good friend and someone who, helped me a lot. So I was very happy to find him and give him this position on the website, and from what I've heard, he's very happy about it. But Brad's not the only one I went and talked to.
No. You didn't go elsewhere, did you?
I did go elsewhere because Brad, as I said, he hadn't talked to me for a while, and it turns out that his buddy Jake Ziegler he had not talked to for a while. So we went ahead and we made a visit to Michigan, and we went and we visited Jake, and Jake was not in the best of spirits either. He had just watched the Hunt Begins portion of Ring of Honor, and he said, I can't believe I'm reviewing this stuff. I don't know what to do with myself. I mean, there's... I do WWE reviews and everything, but that's on my blog, and not a lot of people see it. So what people see is, my Ring of Honor DVD reviews, and those, come first before everything else. And he goes, so what am I supposed to do? And so I said, I've given Brad a home here at ProWrestlingPonderings.com, and I know that you have your Ring of Honor thing over at Pulse, but I'd be more than happy to bring you and your WWE reviews to Pro Wrestling Ponderings. So yes, WWE, their big releases of superstars and everything else will be on the website, as well as DVD reviews of their pay-per-views, brought to you by Jake Ziegler, another founder of the Cool Kids table.
Now, the only thing I want to correct you on is that General Motors is not out of business, but I'm sure that you were referring to that one plant that closed down, right? That was the one that...
Yes. Right. If you must excuse me, but that is the plant that he happened to be working at, which is really just a shame.
Of course. Now, I assume that they're just writing. That's it. There's nothing else, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
What are you doing? Why?
Well, as we have rigged it, I have been able to at least get Mr. Bradley Garoon to do a podcast with us tomorrow.
Wow, that's awfully impressive. That's definitely news to me. What happens if I had softball or something tomorrow?
I guess it's just me and Brad doing it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to hell with softball. I'm podcasting with you two fine gentlemen. I want to find out where the hell he's been. I want to find out about his failures.
But now, you know what? Now he is a winner because he has joined the Pro Wrestling Ponderings family and will bring the joy and love of Dragon Gate that he has to us. And from talking to him, he's enthusiastic, he's been writing his ass off, and he is ready to come back in a big way.
Well, that is obviously some great news, and we have Brad is going to be on the podcast tomorrow. What about Mr. Ziegler?
We talked to him about that. Hopefully he'll be on. We'd love him to have him on, of course. We've talked to him, but we'll see if it happens. If we can get both of them on the same podcast at the same time, my computer may explode, but we're going to try it anyways.
Yes, indeed. I assume if he is not on, then he will unfortunately... I assume his first obligation is to finish The Hunt Begin. Well, Kevin, I guess you have done your job as the Commissioner of Food, Beverage, and Fun here. You have not only brought us more fun, but you have added some goddamn credibility to this place. Kevin, I'm going to send you Scars and Stripes 2009 from AAW. Congratulations, you are now getting 2 DVDs free from me.
Excellent. And I know we hopefully have some people who have stuck with us from the AAW message board. So this will be I've seen some of the AAW matches, specifically Motor City Machine Guns matches, because I'm a big fan of theirs. But this will be my very first full-length AAW show, and I'm very much looking forward to it because looking at the company, they seem to be having a really good product going right now, and I'm very interested to start delving into them as well as the other myriad of wrestling promotions I follow at the moment.
Well, I guess you could say that tomorrow is going to be a very, very special edition of Pro Wrestling Ponderings. It's going to be one hell of a show, and I guess that you could say that this website has been in existence for 4 months now, and we have grown by leaps and bounds. It started with myself, and the first 2 people that I asked were Zane and Anthony. Anthony has since moved on to bigger and better things. Zane is still with me. And I've just gone out and I've recruited everyone I could. Kevin has graciously sacrificed time to do this podcast with me. Despite all of our technical difficulties, despite all of our audio problems, Kevin has been a true soldier in the fight to help get Pro Wrestling Pondering's credibility. Chris GST has done a phenomenal job getting us something of a website. We have bios to look at. He helped establish the Twitter page as well. He has done a ton of work for the site, and I've been really pestering him the last couple of days, so I definitely wanted to mention his hard work. Matt Winton is someone who I recruited from the Cool Kids table, and it's been great to have him on board talking about PWG and doing the Raw reviews. Zach Danielson, there are some times that I want to murder him, but he is probably one of the few people that I know that actually enjoys TNA, enjoys watching Impact, and I am so glad to have him doing those reviews as well as reviewing ECW. I also want to thank Justin Houston, who recently started his own CHIKARA column. Obviously, Kevin Ford does a great job with his own, but Justin is someone that has kind of stepped up and has done a phenomenal job with all of his columns. I can't thank him enough for doing the CHIKARA columns for us after we lost Anthony. He has just been phenomenal, and I'm very excited to see where he goes. He is probably one of the finest writers on this site. No offense to anyone else, but I really have nothing but good things to say about him, so thank you, Justin, as well. And then we have what I call the UK connection. We have James Johnson, Michael Robertson. They do the SmackDown and Superstars reviews. It's been great to have them. I don't get to talk to them as much because of the time difference, but it's been great having those 2 on board. And Kevin, you should know that James has started to watch more CHIKARA just based on these podcasts.
Yes, I'm doing my part. James, you rock, buddy. Thanks for everything you do for the website, and thanks for giving CHIKARA a shot.
So yes, indeed, obviously we have all of this coming, and we also have the partnership with AAW. If you go to AAWwrestling.com, which you should anyway, if you click on and go to their main page, you will see the Pro Wrestling Ponderings banner. How many wrestling organizations do you know of that actually help and correspond with media outlets and give them support? There are very few, and this is an honor and a privilege to be able to work with AAW. This doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and fillet AAW and say that everything they do is awesome and that it is great, but what it does mean is that we are going to have a friendly relationship with them. I'm going to be able to bring more interviews. I'm going to bring more audio to this website. I'm going to have more AAW DVD reviews, and I really just want to thank obviously Silas Young and the Phoenix Twins, they are the first ones to be interviewed. Those are three of the most underrated guys on the independent scene going right now. And if there is any wrestling promoter that happens to be listening to this, then you should book those three fucking guys as soon as you can, because they would be solid additions to your program. Obviously, I want to thank Jim Lynam and Mike from AAW for allowing me to hang around before the show. And I was very quiet and tried to keep myself as not being a nuisance, but it was great to be there on this past Saturday. So obviously, it's great to be working with AAW. Beyond Wrestling is another smaller company that we're going to be having a partnership with. So it is great to have them on board and helping each other out as well. And now I guess you could say that we have gotten even bigger. We've got Brad Garoon and Jake Ziegler, two guys who I was awfully pissed off at the beginning of the year because of the way that the Cool Kids table ended. But it has been a long time. It's been, 8 months since that website died? Well, I think it's great to have them on board. I think it's just awesome to have these two guys. Regardless of what happened in the past, they are going to be great contributors to this website. I would not be here at ProWrestlingPonderings.com running this site, would not have half the people on the site without the Cool Kids table. And it's great to have Brad and Jake on. It's great to have them motivated. And if the only thing that he wants to do is write, then he is a fucking awesome writer, and it is just great to have him on. So like I said, I just cannot say how proud I am of everyone who's worked this hard for the site up to this point. And folks, things are only going to get better in the next few months. I promise that we are going to have a real website very, very soon. Our podcast will be streaming, our articles will be up, we will be very organized. And in fact, you might see something come on at midnight on January the 1st of 2010. So I know it's a little early, but that's something to be looking forward to. So I have just rambled on for a good 5 to 10 minutes there, but I think it needed to be said. Kevin, you can plug your stuff right now, but anything that you want to add?
Yes, let me ramble. And again, I want to thank Drew Cordero and Jason Sterlacki, two people you failed to mention, but that's fine because there was a long list of people for coming on board and helping us out too, so that's really cool as well. And I'll get some plugs out of the way. One thing that I also did for this website that was not mentioned is I actually started our email, prowrestlingponderings@gmail.com. You should email us. Email us questions, comments, problems. What you got, we'll take. We'd love to do like a mailbag edition of the show sometimes, so if you have just any general questions about wrestling or, whatever else, we'll take some frivolities for the hell of it. We'll answer them hopefully on the show and do that kind of stuff, so we really appreciate you doing that. One of the main things I do, aside from helping out with ProWrestlingPonderings.com, is I also work at 411mania.com, and I have a weekly Chikara column called Contemplating Chikara. I took a 2-week break, but it should be coming back this Saturday with a big old recap of Young Lions Cup weekend as a whole, and a bunch of other Chikara news, like what's coming up in their September shows and everything like that. Plus, I have Chikara DVD reviews. I have reviewed every show from May of 2008 up till now. My Anniversario Yin review just went up Sunday, so you can still find that on the main page. And my Anniversario Yang review will be coming out this Thursday, the 20th, so you can look forward to that as well. And, of course, if you click on my name, you can find all my archive stuff in that as well. And while we're plugging people, this is something I have no affiliation with, and there's no affiliation with the website or anything like that, but it has everything to do with me because they plugged me by name and my column, and they did not have to. And I'm talking about Clayton Morris and Mike Quackenbush's podcast, The Grizzly Bear Egg Cafe. It's a really great podcast. It's a lot of talk about movies and other stuff, and pretty much just pop culture in general. It's really interesting. It's really funny. It's fascinating. Both guys are great speakers and are smart and know what they're talking about. And Mike Quackenbush name-dropped both my name and the name of my column on his podcast. He did not have to do that. I think it was a great honor to hear the promoter of the company give the thumbs up to my column, so I really just want to give their podcast a shout-out as well. And, of course, check ProWrestlingPonderings.com. I've actually done one writing there about my love for CM Punk, so make sure to check that out as well. And I, of course, will have more contributions to the website coming up in the future. And that, my friend, is, I think, everything I have to plug under the sun.
I'm tired of talking right now, so I'll just say, tonight, thank you very much. For tonight, you have listened to Pro Wrestling Ponderings, but tomorrow, you'll be listening to the Cool Kids Table.